Guys, it's Pavi back with another video. I hope you're all keeping well and enjoying. Well, if you're in the UK, you're enjoying some really nice sunny weather that we're having today and in the last few days, and looking forward to some more sunny days ahead as well. Just really wanted to jump on today just to kind of do a quick video about Novak Djokovic's season so far. You know, we've heard so much from the doomslayers, the usual suspects that are writing him off, and those that think that he should retire and that he's not got the skill or kind of desire as he did in the past. And I just really wanted to dissect his season so far, and why I'm not worried at all as we head into slam season. You know, when we come to the end of May and into June, I call it slam season because you have three slams, obviously the French Open, Wimbledon and the US Open in 4 months. So this is the time really that the season matters, and this is what will matter most for Novak Djokovic. But let's just look at Djokovic's season so far and why I'm not so worried. You know, we started with a warm-up event prior to the Australian Open in Brisbane. He had a good couple of wins, and then he lost to Riley Opelka on some fast surface where Opelka played really well, and Opelka on his day with his serve can beat anyone, and I think Djokovic made it to the quarters or semis of Brisbane. But then he went on to the Australian Open, obviously. You know, he went on to the Australian Open and he looked in absolutely sensational form. You know, the best performance that I've seen Djokovic play for many years, I think, was his quarter-final victory against Carlos Alcaraz, where obviously, unfortunately, he picked up his injury, but he still managed to close out that match in 4 sets against an informed Alcaraz, and it really kind of put a statement to say that Djokovic can still more than mix it with all of the top players in the game. He unfortunately had to then retire in the next match against Zverev, and it was confirmed that he had unfortunately had torn his hamstring, which was obviously put on by Djokovic to kind of confirm really to all the people that saying that he was putting it on, and it was a very bad tear. And what happened after that was Djokovic wanted to play Doha, but I think he wanted to play Doha more for sponsorship obligations. He's sponsored by Qatar Airlines, and he had a number of obligations there. So I think he went there. He has since said that he wasn't right physically, you know, in that match, and he lost early to Berrettini, but he was still only 4 weeks post his tear, and he hadn't had much play since the Australian Open. And then the same really happened in Indian Wells. You felt that he was still not quite over his injury, but again he had sponsorship obligations, but he went out early in Indian Wells, and it was only really after Indian Wells where Djokovic had went to spend some time with Andy Murray, and they really had a good couple of weeks where he was focused on his form, his fitness. It was like a really good camp, and he came back to Miami and he was sensational in Miami. You know, people forget already, people are writing Djokovic off. This was only a couple of months ago, in less than a couple of months ago in Miami, where he was playing a very high level of tennis. You know, Musetti, who has been one of the form players of the season, said it was the best that he'd ever seen Djokovic play when Djokovic beat him, I think 2-1, very comfortable. And Musetti has played Djokovic about 10 times in the last few years, so he is a great person to kind of really gauge where his level was. During Miami, he had really strong performances against Korda, against Dimitrov, and then he went into that final. He hadn't lost a single set, and he went up against Jakub Mensik. But at this point, he had unfortunately developed an eye infection. Now, this couldn't have been timed worse, really, for Djokovic, because he was facing Jakub Mensik, one of the biggest servers on the game. And if your eye is not fully opening, you're going to have problems in receiving that return. And you know, it just takes fractions of seconds to make that difference. And you know, even though Djokovic battled really well, he lost in 2 tiebreakers. He went on to lose that final. But Miami gave a lot of people a lot of hope, including myself, to say that yeah, when Djokovic has this training camp, when he's on it, he is still the man to beat. He still can mix it up with the very, very best. What happened after that was similar to kind of what happened after Australia, really, that he was still struggling with the eye infection. He decided to play Monaco. He's still got a lot of family and friends. He's still got an apartment in Monaco. So he probably thought, look, I'm going to play it. I'm not 100%. His eye still wasn't right. He went out early. Again, no big alarm bells for me in Monaco for him losing. He went on to Madrid. Madrid is a place that he's missed in the last few years. He's not a huge fan of the conditions of all the surfaces of Madrid. He normally prefers Rome. He went out to an oldie in straight sets. Looked a bit rusty, but you know, I don't really include Monte Carlo, so I still feel he was making that adjustment from hard to clay and didn't quite make it. Then there was the announcement, obviously, that Djokovic was then going to skip Rome, which I think was a great idea. Announced at the time and announced before it that I didn't really want Djokovic to play in Rome. Now, Djokovic has got his own reasons for why he hasn't played Rome. He might have felt he needed a little bit of extra time to just recover mentally, physically from these injuries and illnesses that he's picked up this year. Or he probably didn't want to be part of this fanfare. You know, we've seen the Sinner circus. You know, you've got to remember that Djokovic, if he was in Rome, after what happened in Rome last year, you know, when he obviously, apparently it was an accident, but, you know, there was a lack of security there where he got hit by an aluminium bottle and it knocked him out. You know, it put him onto the floor. He was suffering from concussion. The duty of care that he had afterwards from Rome wasn't particularly good. They didn't insist on him going on a hospital, which for any brain injury should be mandatory, and it is mandatory in a lot of sports. So you know, they were happy for him to be checked over on site and sent him back to his hotel. You know, they put out a message saying it was from a kid's rucksack and a kid's bottle. They put that out to Associated Press. It was only when the footage came out that they changed their statement. So is that something that they really wanted to go ahead with? They would have seen the CCTV before anyone else, and they put out a statement saying it was a kid and a kid's bottle. That still doesn't feel right for me for many reasons. The purpose, and it certainly wasn't the kid, and he ran off when he was trying to be questioned by the police. So maybe Djokovic asked the Roman, said, look, can you provide me with extra security with what's going on in the world and what happened last year? It might have been rejected. Or he might not just wanted to be part of this circus. You know, every single press conference he would be asked about Yannick Sinner. Anything that Djokovic said would have been magnified. You know, if he didn't say something right, he would have had the Italian press on him. There's a lot of powerful people in play at the moment. The emotions are really high. I don't think he would have really had time to really, you know, practice and play that tournament, you know, with all these distractions going on. So I was really pleased that Djokovic, you know, skipped Rome. He went to the US. I'm sure he had some business, but probably just some chill time. I think Djokovic this year has probably needed a little bit of time to just recover and rest mentally and physically. He's had a few infections. He's had this muscle tear, so his body needs to have time where he's just away from tennis. You know, maybe doing things of his own. And then yesterday he announced that he's taken a wild card for Geneva, which is brilliant news. You know, absolutely brilliant news. He played there last year. So, you know, Djokovic has already told us this year that he is using every single event outside of the slams as preparation to get him ready for the slams. That's his priority. Yes, he would love to win every tournament that he plays, but his main focus are the Grand Slams, and he's using Geneva really to get into some form. He'd love to win a match or two just to get that competitive win on clay before he goes to Roland Garros. And if he can go deep and you know, win the 100th title, then that would be amazing as well. But his main priority in Geneva is to get some competitive match play in clay. And there's a great lineup in Geneva. You know, Taylor Fritz is playing, Casper Ruud's playing, Shapovalov is playing. It's got some really good players there, so he will get a really good workout there. Last year he made it to the semis. He lost to Thomas Machak. So he'll be looking to try and get, you know, a couple of wins like he did last year, or maybe even more. So that's really, really pleased, and that's why, I'm not worried at all. If you look at the two tournaments where he has gone in prepared properly, he's fresh, he's injury free. Australian Open, he makes the semi-finals, has to retire due to an injury. Miami, he makes the final and luckily picks up an eye infection in the time of that final. Those are the two events that you should really judge Djokovic on. All the other ones, I think some of them were done for sponsorship reasons. The other ones, he's actually said that he probably, in hindsight, shouldn't have played those because he wasn't physically ready really for those matches. So those are what you should judge Djokovic on. We're what 2-3 weeks away from the French Open. I think he's got enough time. I think you'll see him this week going ahead. He'll come back to Europe. He'll start practicing on clay. He'll get ready for Geneva, and then he'll get ready for the French Open. And I think there's plenty of time. He's had some nice time away from the court, away from all what's happening in tennis. There's so much going on in tennis this year, obviously with the PTPA, the lawsuits as well. There's a lot. It takes a lot out of a player who's involved in it, and so much like Djokovic is. There's obviously the circus going on with Yannick Sinner at the moment as well. So you're away from that. Let's get focused back on tennis, and I think he'll do well in Geneva. I don't think he'll win because I think it's too early for him to kind of just come onto clay and rock up and win an event. But I think he'll win a couple of matches, maybe go deep, semis or final, and then really get ready for the French Open. And I still think, and I've said it at the start of the season, that I believe that Djokovic will get to 25 Grand Slams in 2025. Whether it's the French or Wimbledon or US, I'm not sure. I think Wimbledon for me is probably his best chance, but I think he's got a really, really good chance at French Open as well. I think he'll be there or thereabouts in all three of those slams. He just needs a little bit of luck to try and stay fit. And if he gets that luck, then I think he will go on and win his number 25 Grand Slam this year. And if he doesn't, it's okay. There's some people who are like, well, what if he doesn't? He's completed tennis. He's won every single major title there is in tennis. He's got the most Grand Slams than any other player, and I don't think anyone that's ever going to get anywhere near that, let alone surpass that. So, he's had a fantastic season, but I still believe he's got a couple of seasons in him. Obviously, we heard from Thierry Gabolt, CEO of the Lacoste, that he's spoken to Djokovic, and Djokovic ideally wants to try and play in the 2028 Olympics. So he's still got no ideas of immediate retiring. I think this year is going to be the best year for him to get a slam. I think he's still got the level that's needed to win that slam. So really excited, and so all those ones that worried about Djokovic, I really wouldn't do. He's already told us that his main priority this year are Grand Slams. And, judging by the one that he's played so far, which is the Australian Open, he got to the semi-final. He beat Alcaraz, who was the favourite to win that Australian Open before the start of the tournament, and was very, very unlucky with picking up a hamstring tear. So I'm not worried at all. As I said, I'm glad that he's missing Rome. Just looking at the way that all the crowd, it's convenient for Sinner to come back in Rome after serving a 3-month convenient ban. He skipped the fact to fight for his innocence at the court arbitration of sport, and now he's got he's returning like some sort of messiah when he's coming back off a drugs ban. Let's face it, he was found. He could have gone to court arbitration of sport and fight for his innocence, but he decided not to. He took a settlement. And he's back now, and we're gonna get all the Sina. So we're gonna get all of that today. I find it quite amusing, really, that this guy is being lauded as some sort of hero when he's coming back off a drugs ban, but there we go. World is crazy at the moment. Life is crazy, but we will continue to call things out that are crazy and hopefully make people aware of what's really happening. So that's all for me at the moment. As I said, delighted that Djokovic is going to be playing Geneva. Delighted he missed Rome. And really, just for anyone who's worried about his form, his motivation, I don't think there's anything to worry about. I think come the three slams that are coming up, if he's fine physically, I think he will be there or thereabouts. So much love. Take care, everyone, wherever you are in the world. Look after each other. Look after yourselves. There's a lot of crazy stuff going on in the world at the moment. So hope everyone is safe and take care. And I'll be back with another video soon. Take care. Bye.